Well, let's begin by understanding who's Temujin. ये sudden celebrity के पीछे you have been president for 5 years. आप नागालैंड में बीजेपी के साथ कैसे आए? Politics में कैसे आए? जरा बताइए.
I joined the Bharatiya Janata Party in the year 2013 and then I worked in the BJP party as a karyakarta. In 2018 elections I contested and by God's grace, people's support, I won and came to the 13th Legislative Assembly.
Hello and welcome. Good evening, friends. If you're watching this bulletin Saturday evening, chances are that you take your news and views very seriously. And that's why we thought that why not choose at least a day or two over the week where we can delve in detail on issues that have been in the news, that are of consequence in public life, and that matter to you as viewers and, more importantly, as citizens of this very vibrant and beautiful democracy. And that's why this weekend edition of the debate, we will pick up one issue, not necessarily the story of the day, but one which has trended through the week and has been of consequence, and then go deep into it with an important panel of guests. Shravan, joining me there. Shravan Sen.
Well, in fact, we at Republic have always believed that there is absolutely no substitute to a good debate. And why not? For all argumentative Indians, I think so that's the best way to understand multiple things that keep coming your way. But on the weekend debate, perhaps that one big promise that we make, and that promise essentially being that we bring together diverse opinions and, more importantly, get, as Abhishek was pointing out, to the depth of it. On the first edition of the weekend debate, we'll get you a story of how exactly India's soft power is making it in a position which seems to be indomitable, a position from which we say a position of strength.
Yeah. Now, in fact, the background is that there has been a tragedy, massive tragedy panning out in Turkey and Syria with that earthquake on February 6, and humanitarian assistance has been the hour of the need of the hour. And India has been quick to respond, like it is always in its neighborhood. And we have sent about 6 plane loads of relief rescue, including personnel, both of the Indian Army and the National Disaster Response Force. And they're doing a fantastic job there. So in that backdrop, Shravan, we are essentially discussing what are the implications of this kind of soft power that India has come to practice of late. Of course, we have been doing it always, but then perhaps we are doing it now in a little more focused manner. That's why this debate, India's humanitarian assistance, disaster response in its neighborhood, and its both friendly and strategic implications for us as a nation.
Let's dive into the debate, but before that, take a look at the headlines we're tracking for you at this hour.
All right, headlines at this hour. From field hospital to army personnel and NDRF, India continues to aid in rescue and relief operations in Turkey.
Indian Embassy in Turkey confirms one missing Indian has been killed in the Turkey earthquake.
त्रिपुरा ये ठान चुका है कि विकास का डबल इंजन अब रुकने वाला नहीं है.
Headline: Prime Minister Modi campaigns in Tripura pushes for double engine sarkar for growth.
राहुल भाई सुन लो, ये नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार है. खून की नदियां छोड़ो, किसी का कंकर चलाने का भी हिम्मत नहीं हुआ. कंकर चलाने का
Amit Shah campaigns in communally sensitive Dakshin Kannada ahead of the elections.
And NIA and state agency arrest Al-Qaeda operative, or suspect in fact, in Bengaluru.
YRCP parliamentarian son in the enforcement custody for 10 days after being arrested today in the Liquorgate case.
All right, India is the first country to respond to Turkey earthquake and send out help. Multiple plane loads, as we discussed, have been sent along with personnel. Indian Army Field Hospital is operational in Turkey, and this is how India is sending out a huge message with its humanitarian aid. Here's a report, and then we come back and discuss.
The field hospital set up by the Indian Army in Hatay province in Turkey has treated over 200 quake victims.
On 8th, we reached Adana airport in the morning. We were shifted to Iskenderun province, where a suitable building was identified. It was a school building, and we were able to establish our hospital in the next 6 hours to receive the casualties. We were able to do a couple of major surgeries, total around 10 surgeries we have done, but worth mentioning, one is amputation of a patient who was recovered from the rubble after 4 days. So it was a miracle that he survived.
I'm really grateful to them because they're the first group, arrived in Iskenderun and with a group of army, with a group of people. Yesterday, before sleeping, I checked how many patients we got here. It was 350 patients in 2 days.
The NDRF has been working round the clock, pulling out victims from the rubble, from 6-year-old Biren to this 8-year-old who was rescued 4 days after the earthquake. 6 flights with rescue and relief material have landed in Turkey, making India the 4th largest rescue team in Turkey.
The number of patients who are coming seeking medical attention is progressively increasing. And today, so far, we have already seen that the team has received more than 225 patients already.
Not just Turkey, India has ensured enough supplies are sent to quake-hit Syria as well. In recent years, the ties between India and Turkey have been strained due to Istanbul's proximity to Islamabad. But India has been one of the first respondents in Turkey as it battles the worst disaster in almost a century.
इस समय तुर्की में आए विनाशकारी भूकंप पर हम सभी की दृष्टि लगी हुई है। भारत के 140 करोड़ लोगों की संवेदनाएं सभी भूकंप पीड़ितों के साथ है। भारत भूकंप पीड़ितों की हर संभव मदद के लिए तत्पर है।
Turkey has been part of NATO since the Cold War, but the international alliance is yet to send help to the quake-ravaged country. In difficult times, India has emerged as Turkey's true friend.
Operation Dost is a very important operation, and this is the operation of friendship, because Dost is a word in Hindi and Turkish which means friends, and this operation shows our friendship between India and Turkey, and friends always help each other.
But would all this humanitarian diplomacy make India a disaster response soft power and, more importantly, reset India-Turkey ties? Bureau Report, Republic TV.
Joining us on the weekend debate tonight are Charu Pragya of the BJP, Ashok Sajjanar, a former diplomat, Jitendra Kumar Ojha, the national security analyst, Pankaj Sharma, senior journalist, Abhishek Sudhir, political analyst, Tawseef Ahmed Khan, political analyst, and Professor Dinesh Varshni. Opening up the debate tonight, Charu Pragya and Pankaj Sharma. Let's take a look at the politics behind it, because Abhishek, what has always happened is that from the time Prime Minister Modi has put that focus, the spotlight of how India should be viewed globally, the opposition parties time and again have said that the government has failed, and they've always cited one, that deteriorating relations with our neighboring countries. They cite Sri Lanka, they cite China, they cite Nepal. Charu Pragya, today we see a very different kind of diplomacy, especially with that humanitarian aid being sent to Turkey. So much so that Turkey ended up saying that even their allies did not respond as quickly as India did. So let's put the politics aside. What does Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy really look like?
So glad you have chosen this topic to discuss today, a topic which is uniting hopefully across party lines. The very crux of Modi ji's diplomacy has always been Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. We know that. We say, and our culture re-establishes this belief that the whole world is one family, and we have lived by that principle. We have in fact acted on that principle time and time again. In the case of Turkey, it does not matter that we've been going through a phase of extreme political differences. It's never been hidden. But when it comes to humanitarian aid and help, India was the first country, amongst the first countries standing there and helping. And not just helping Turkey, it's in fact amongst the few countries which is helping both Turkey and Syria. We are in a position where sending out this help, of course, is re-establishing our belief in Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, but it is also showing India as a global superpower to the rest of the world. We are actually become a country which is not just asking for relief from the developed nations of the world. We've become one which is sending out relief to all countries whenever needed, whether it was Vaccine Maitri or it is Operation Dost today. And another very important point I want to bring up here, our global image has been getting better with every passing year, and it is very critical this year, especially because we have the presidency of the G20. We are actually a country which is also showcasing our military strength, because it is our army there. We are talking about how quickly we can transport relief, we can send our personnel, our dog squad is there, we've set up a field hospital. We are working night and day to give relief to the people of Turkey and of Syria, and we are very proud of it. Modi ji stand has taken India a huge way ahead. I remember maybe 10 years ago, what was the value of holding an Indian passport? And today, with so much pride, all the Indians are showing off that Indian passport.
The kind of calamities to any country.
I don't know who's interrupting me. I'm speaking into a camera here.
1 minute.
Shravan, Abhishek, I'm very sorry.
Sharman, perhaps to all our panelists here. 1 minute. Charu, sorry. I think so. Let's make this very clear, Abhishek, that the purpose of the weekend debate is to actually get into the depth of it, to find the real perspective. So, Pankaj Sharma, let the other panelists speak.
And
come to you.
You will get
let Charu make the position of the government very clear, and then we come to you, Pankaj Sharma, to understand where lies the problem.
And if you raise some questions, Pankaj, we will make sure that Charu responds to them.
Thank
Charu,
you, Shravan. No, absolutely. And it's not very fair that you cut my flow of thought, because this is India's position that I'm talking about, and I'm saying it with a lot of pride. I think every single citizen needs to look at our country first and then look at political affiliations. Unfortunately, every time there is a situation where India is shining on the global platform, we have people within India who have a problem with that, and I have a problem with people like that.
Okay, Pankaj Sharma, we are talking about our global standpoint. It's the way India should be looked at. It's not about the Bharatiya Janata Party. It's about India, and more importantly, how do we position ourselves? Globally, we've seen multiple countries in the headwinds. There are difficult times. We've also, navigated through it, and we'll get into the details of the challenges that India has faced. Pankaj Sharma, put across where does the opposition see the real problem when it comes to the foreign policy of our country?
See, the point is, India has been sending relief material and rescue teams at the time of calamities to any countries, even to enemy nations, as a natural humanitarian response. So what is so new in this? Why to take so much credit for that? Why to make so much noise? I don't say that Narendra Bhai Modi
No. How many
didn't make
countries
any
are sending
efforts.
humanitarian
Please listen to me now.
response to Turkey
Please
right now?
listen to me
Are you
now.
aware?
I
I'm
don't
sorry,
say...
I'm interrupting.
No.
Sorry, Shravan Abhishek, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
Charu, hold on.
Listen to me
There
now.
are how many countries in the world and how many have sent
Charu,
relief
hold
to
on.
these
I
two
will
saying there is nothing new in this.
opportunity.
This has been the practice since long. What is new in this? I don't say that Narendra Bhai Modi didn't make any efforts to make India's diplomacy more effectual and forceful. But when you look back, you find that this style of functioning proved totally counterproductive in improving India's relations with most of the countries. These 9 years have been a saga of India's badly failed diplomacy vis-a-vis all the geographies in the world. From SAARC to ASEAN to BRICS to NATO to Quad to OPEC to G8 to even G20. Tell me which organizational group of the countries doesn't feel apprehensive and uncomfortable with fuzzy and uncertain approach on issues by our Prime Minister. Diplomacy is not a game of only lip service. You perhaps can run your country with an unreasonably bulldozing and self-obsessed style.
No.
But global diplomacy is a game that requires sophistication and wisdom.
No. One minute.
Why to make so much noise that we have sent relief to Turkey?
Okay.
This is
so much noise. Okay.
Please do your work. That is fine.
Okay.
We all are proud that we are with Turkey at this
you seem to have made... Pankaj.
Oh, really? Can I please respond?
Pankaj, you seem to have made essentially, if I reduce your argument, Charu, I'll come to you. If I reduce your argument into two very clear points, which is that there is a lot of noise and it is more about Narendra Modi's style or Narendra Modi's positioning, and that actually in reality India's diplomacy has failed. Now I fail to understand. Charu, you will get your opportunity. We are just opening up the debate. We have to involve everyone else. So let me. We have taken one opposition voice. Shravan, how about getting to Mr. Ashok Sajjanhar? He's been a career diplomat. He's someone who understands the nuances of diplomacy, how it works, how nations respond. Very good evening, sir. The point that is being made is, while Charu Pragya narrated how the government has been effective and aggressive in its humanitarian assistance push over the last few years, people in opposition or those with the opposition like Pankaj say that no, this is more about Narendra Modi's style. Otherwise, it seems like a case of failed diplomacy. Sir, just to understand, if one water filtration plant in Maldives fails or does not function, and then India sends 1,200 tons of fresh water overnight to a government which is very openly hostile to India and Mole. This was, I believe, in December 2014, and Narendra Modi had been Prime Minister just for about 5 months. You think this is about a style or this is about a thought, an idea? Let's give credit to, let's attribute it to Narendra Modi that India should be the first responder whenever a nation in our neighborhood facing a crisis. Is it a thought which has been, now sort of institutionalized in India's diplomacy, that India has to be the first responder in neighborhood when it comes to humanitarian assistance and disaster response?
A couple of points that I'll make. First of all, thank you very much. I think both to the two of you who are sort of, moderating the discussion, also to Republic TV for having taken up this issue and taken this initiative. So the first thing that I would like to say is there is not only style, there is a lot of substance in what Prime Minister Modi does. Earlier the intent might have been there, but the capacity and capability was not there. As we have heard from the finance minister, when 2014, India was number 10 economy in the world. Today, it is the 5th largest economy in the world and going to become the 3rd largest economy in another few years. So today, there is also the capability, the strength to be able to walk the talk, do what you are saying. Second thing, what I would like to say is that Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy has been an undisguised, unadulterated success on every front. You know, you look at the neighborhood policy that, one of the gentlemen mentioned about. I think barring Pakistan and China, and we can go into that also, barring these two countries, our relations today are much better than they were in 2014 or they have been ever. In fact, in terms of our relations with our strategic partners, whether it is the United States, whether it is US, even during the time of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the manner in which we have been able to negotiate the headwinds and move forward while maintaining our excellent relations with the Russian Federation, as also with the United States. India has reached out. You know, the motto of our G20 presidency is that one Earth, one family, one future. And we are working towards that. You would recall that when Prime Minister Modi went for the first time to the UN General Assembly in September of 2014, he gave the ethos of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam at that time. And he has stuck to that, whether globally or even domestically. When it is, he says, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, it is basically Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in the domestic context. You look at, the COVID-19 pandemic. The developed countries did not share their vaccines. Their vaccines got expired. India is the only country which has supplied 300 million vaccines to more than 100 countries. So I think the capability also matters and the intent also matters. In the case of Prime Minister Modi, both of them have come together. Please.
Okay.
Well, Professor Varshini, I'll bring in some more specifics and perhaps even Abhishek can come in and help me out on this. But, look at the way we have basically operated. And I'll get to some of the particular cases. With the kind of pressure that India has faced from the West when it comes to the position it has taken in the Russia-Ukraine war. But despite that, when it comes to helping the neighbors, take a look at what has happened just as recently, about a couple of weeks ago, when a Russian ship was supposed to dock at Haldia, and there was a lot of hullabaloo from the West that it should not be allowed. India found a position that they are going to help Bangladesh when it comes to setting up their nuclear plant, somehow managed to at least get the items inside Bangladesh. This, realizing that this could have irked the West. Today, that hangover, or for that matter, that fear, what is the West really going to think, India started making its own position very clear. Professor Varshini, shouldn't that be something that we should be proud of? Because even a country like Pakistan ends up saying that, look at India's foreign policy.
Look, as a matter of principle, I am not supposed to do a politics on this issue. As far as humanitarian aid is concerned, all nations should do, and we were always doing it earlier also. The biggest ever humanitarian operation has ever happened by the government of India was 1970 war, when we helped the Mukti Vahini and saved the people of Bangladesh from the tortures of the Pakistani military. Thereafter, continuously we were helping before that or also that. And we had a very good relations with Turkey before 2014 even. And unfortunately, those relations deteriorated because Erdogan is also a hardliner communal type of politician. Similarly, the Modi ji is also a hardliner communal type of politician. Both of them believes in brings the religion into the politics of the nation. That brought a problem between relations between India and Turkey. Otherwise, Turkey, when it was known as an Anatolia, as an ancient civilization, since then we had very good relations. We had a trade route via Turkey. Turkey had a trade route via India. So we had a very good relations earlier also, and we should do it. Number two is, look, we are always proud of our NDRF and as well as our AMC, Army Medical Corps. They were always helping, and we say thanks to them. And we have full sympathies with those who have lost their near and dear ones in Turkey and Syria. We should help the people in Turkey as well as Syria both. But if you say that Modi's foreign policy was or is very good, I don't agree with the diplomat sahab who has spoken earlier, or Charu Pragya. I'm very sorry that not a single group of the countries of the world ever believes in our foreign policy because of the hardline religious fanaticism in our foreign policy. So that is a problem with our Indian government at present.
Okay.
And Modi should understand that he has to control his organization, the RSS, the Bajrang Dal, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, all these type of organizations, to have the peaceful coexistence with our neighbors. We should learn to live in peaceful coexistence instead of fighting each other. That will bring the peace to this area, and we will save the money on expenditure on the arms race and other things.
Professor Varshney, sending water when a nation like Maldives is in crisis, or assisting Sri Lanka with fuel supplies when they are really down in the dumps, I think calls for makes for peaceful coexistence. Let me take this forward. I wanted to bring in Tausif, but before that, let me go to Mr. Jitendra Kumar Oja. I was looking at the manner in which India has come to the rescue of our neighbors, including this time Turkey, for example. Turkey is not particularly, or has not been particularly well disposed towards us post abrogation of Article 370 in Kashmir, because they sort of keep taking a Pakistani line. In fact, there was an axis that was sought to be created between Turkey, or Turkey as it is called now, Pakistan and Malaysia, which was stillborn, never happened. But then because of that Pakistan dimension, Turkey has not been very friendly to us. Similarly, and yet we have done what we have done over the last 1 week, Jitendra Kumar Oja. Also, if you look at the example I gave of Maldives of 2014, the government at that time in Maldives was not at all well predisposed towards us. In fact, they also had this Pakistan predilection. And then, for example, recently in Sri Lanka, the Rajapaksas, they have always played the China card. And yet we came to Sri Lanka's rescue and really were the best neighbor that one could have, any nation could have thought of in that kind of very trying circumstances. So in that sense, I think the Modi government, irrespective of how politically inclined a particular nation is towards us, really has focused on the essence of what humanitarian assistance during a disaster means, and really stuck to those very ideal dimensions of that kind of support from India. So, Mr. Jitendra Kumar Oja, while there would be political opponents, and Mr. Varshney has all the right to have the views that he just expressed, the fact of the matter is that we have been absolutely unbiased in our extending this kind of assistance whenever there has been a crisis in our neighborhood and beyond.
I would be absolutely objective, and I have absolutely no personal agenda as such to take a position. Look, India has stronger institutional capacity at this point of time, and successful governments may have contributed. What we notice is an assertiveness and a very prompt action. And this relief, I agree with you that wherever there's a crisis, we have differentiated between the people and the regime which is in power. So in Maldives also we acted accordingly. But in this thing, I find a method as well. I 100% agree that, we have now trained and skilled people. We have an institution like NDRF. We have very, very well-organized teams. We have developed some kind of expertise. Even in 2004, when there was tsunami in Sri Lanka, we were first to reach within half an hour. So this is one of our strengths. But despite that, we cannot deny the fact that there is a very fresh look. We have a very professional foreign minister who knows things very well. He knows. And Prime Minister Modi has an advantage of that. I would also say, in these issues, we must not do politics, because institutions also have a role. It's not that wisdom descends in the minds of leader from heaven. No, they don't do that. They have a very well-trained experts who are advising them. So in this case, I would also point out to one thing, that in SCO dialogue also on the sidelines, Turkey is not a member, but it's a dialogue partner. Prime Minister Modi decided to meet Erdogan. And regarding Turkey, let me tell you, even when visits were on, in 1970s also, Turkey had taken a very strong anti-India position in Kashmir. But despite that, there was some kind of stress, visits continued. And last 10 years, you say it's not entirely because of our Prime Minister's ideological position. Because even now, we are most acceptable country in the entire Arab and Muslim world. Saudi Arabia and Iran may have differences, but India remains acceptable. I would just conclude, in last 10 years, President Erdogan himself has undergone transition. He started as a relatively moderate Islamist politician, but then he turned hardline politician for his own sake, for sake of his own career. And last 10 years, you see, Pakistanis have very assiduously cultivated. They have developed very deep economic and military linkages, especially military linkages. In lot many projects, the $1.5 billion of project, 4 ships they are purchasing from Turkey. On F-16, they are having some cooperation. They are planning joint ventures for even stealth aircraft. So this relationship between Turkey and Pakistan has been very close. And then Mr. Erdogan has taken the entire thing to a different level. But even at that point of time, he realized that Turkey does not have a strong strategic interest in this region. And that is where this engagement with Turkey is on. And finally, let me tell you, President Erdogan does not have majority in parliament. Yes, he is powerful. But Pakistanis are helping him, Erdogan as an individual, whereas India's position is that we are friends of Turkey. And I would say that on matters of foreign policy and national security, at least government, opposition, civil society, and everybody has to be on the same page. I conclude.
Well, Tausif, I think Mr. Oja has put out the comprehensive policy of our country, but there's absolutely no doubt, Tausif, as far as Prime Minister Modi's attempt to reset a lot of equations, and it has worked in our favor to a great extent. But what it seems like Professor Varshney was saying, the peaceful coexistence. If you are saying that India's aggressive positioning when it comes to Pakistan, or for that matter, resetting our entire ties with the United States in order to, perhaps curtail the influence of China in Southeast Asia, then I think so. There is a way we are looking at things. Is it time, perhaps, that domestic compulsions should not really decide of how our foreign policy should be looking at? And that is exactly how this government has worked out.
See, if we keep beating trumpet for Mr. Modi only, which BJP does, then we are only discrediting, we are only doing disservice to the idea of nationhood that India is known for and to the values that Indian Army stand for. It is not the first time that Indian Army has been deployed on a humanitarian mission. It has been there from long ago, from centuries. We have been like this because yes, if you're talking about the equation of Mr. Modi with foreign countries and that it has helped some of the people in India, yes, that is true. We have seen how the Sheikh of UAE invested thousands and thousands of crores of rupees in Adani's for buying Adani's share. That is true. But if we only keep beating the trumpet for Mr. Modi, why should we trivialize the values, the ethos, the efforts of our defense personnel? It is not that from today only or from yesterday only Indian Army has gone on a mission on a humanitarian aid. It is not so. So what are we trying to do over here? I don't understand.
Okay.
Instead of facing the tough question, instead of answering the questions on failure on economic front, on the question of relationship of Narendra Modi with Adani, we are trying to divert by beating the trumpet for Mr. Modi because a humanitarian aid has reached from India to Turkey. Please, for God's sake, we all know India has always extended a helping hand to anyone, to any country.
Can I respond, please, to this monologue?
Hold on, Charu, hold on.
People will
I have
judge
to moderate
who is doing
first, then you come. No. Tausif, you made a few points, basically
but,
picking up from where
and some other
Mr. Varshney. Charu, hold on. I am moderating. I'll come to you. I am coming to you only. Abhishek Sudhir is also left, but because Charu has been taking notes and couple of points have gotten together between Mr. Varshney and Tausif and Pankaj Sharma. So let me just sort of club them and give it to Charu. Charu, you see, the point that is being made is that, yes, fine, the government is doing all this. And the present government obviously takes credit. According to your opponents, you are taking little extra credit than is due. But also the fact, as mentioned by both Mr. Sajjanhar and Jitendra Ojha, is that there has been a lot of capacity building that has happened over the last couple of decades, beginning with Kutch earthquake, for example, then the tsunami, and then post the 2015 Nepal earthquake. I think there was this understanding within the establishment that now that we have the capacity, let's take it to our neighborhood and post-COVID, take it to the rest of the world. So the capacity building, which is now being so beautifully utilized perhaps, has been in the making for a while, Charu, and the opponents perhaps grudge it that you are taking credit because something has happened over the last few years. Also, for example, I was going through numbers, Charu, and you have to include that also in your response. India's money spent on this kind of humanitarian assistance outside of India in its neighborhood and beyond is to the tune of about 700 crore rupees over the last 8 or 9 years. That gives you an idea of the kind of money we have, because from being 10th largest economy, we are the 5th largest economy, and that's why we are, or your government is capable of doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for summarizing that. But tongue in cheek, if I can say one thing, when the opposition says we are blowing the trumpet, what are you blowing the trumpet about? That one opposition leader manages to stick to a project for X number of days and runs a marathon across the country, of boasting about that. That's what you want to boast about. And here we are, not boasting, only making sure our citizens know the wonderful work our country is doing to help people across the globe, and repeatedly and time after time. And none of this means I'm taking away from what India has done in the past years. I'm definitely not doing that. But the India of today is so different from India a decade ago. The India of today is confident. The India of today is outspoken. We are not taking insults lying down. So if Europe thinks that they can say something against our country, and no, please don't interrupt, because I have actually waited for my time to speak. I don't understand why you need to come down to this indecency. But you know, when we are asked tough questions, we reply in the same way. Our External Affairs Minister has been giving replies on every single thing and taking a very firm pro-India stand. We are not cowering and bowing down to Western economies. And the one who called our economy a failure, hello, which world are you living in? If you want to be an ostrich, you're welcome to it. But the reality today is we are the fastest growing economy post-COVID. Maybe you need to do a little bit of reading. When the economy the world over is slowing down, India is at a firm 5th place, and we are accelerating past that very, very quickly. So I'm sorry, when you're talking about India, you really need to keep your political ideologies aside. I am not criticizing or talking negatively about what happened 20 years ago, but the fact of the matter is, how much was the country allowed to grow 20 years ago? How much development, industrialization, or basic better infrastructure was allowed into this country? The Prime Minister himself used to boast and say, 100 रुपए चलते हैं तो कितने रुपए पहुंचते हैं? आप सबको याद होगा. अरे जो ऐसी बातें करते थे. And moving to an India of today, where we have direct money going into accounts, there is no misuse of funds. Instead of being proud of our journey, of our story, of the progress that we've made by leaps and bounds in the last 8 to 9 years, you want to put India down because we are in a position to send out help and aid and take control of a situation in any part of the world. So when 6 countries in the world make a vaccine, India makes 2. When less than 30 countries send humanitarian aid to Turkey today, India happens to be one of those countries.
No, Abhishek,
so you're the panelist who said सब लोग कर रहे हैं, इंडिया ने किया तो कितनी बड़ी बात है. नहीं, you only said ना, सब लोग कर रहे हैं, इंडिया ने किया तो कितनी बड़ी बात हो गई आपके लिए. मैं आपसे पूछ रही हूँ, आपको पता है कितने देश कर रहे हैं? कितने देश कर रहे हैं? उसमें से इंडिया के लेवल के कितने देश कर रहे हैं? Less than 30 countries are doing this. I am very proud. I am mighty proud of where my country is progressing, and I don't know why you need to be selfish. Why do you need to add a but when you're only supposed to applaud India? Like, why do you add a but? Please explain.
Okay. Abhishek Sudhir has found something extremely amusing because Abhishek
and Charu's question can be given to Abhishek.
Abhishek Sudhir, I don't know what exactly have you found extremely amusing in Charu's,
But Charu's question can be taken to Abhishek.
Charu's raised that question. I mean, he's made it very clear, Abhishek.
No, I'm very passionate about defending my country, and I'm very firm. When I say this, I'm backing it up with facts.
All of us defend our country.
All of us defend our country. Is doing this for the first time.
Abhishek Sudhir wants to come in. Pankaj Sharma, you get the chance. Let's not do this. Abhishek Sudhir wants to respond. He's been waiting for a while. Abhishek, Charu is asking you a direct question.
I will take Charu.
Why shouldn't you be happy about it?
I have not been this silent on Republic ever. So thank you for finally giving me a chance to speak. I will take Charu Pragya's advice. I will keep my political ideology aside. There are two aspects to this. First is the geopolitical aspect. Okay. Now, we know that Turkey has been a friend of Islamabad. Turkey has always taken an anti-India stance at the UNGA in recent years. Turkey has spoken against Article 370. Turkey has always tried to internationalize, or at least under Erdogan, has tried to internationalize the Kashmir issue. If after we have provided aid, Turkey continues to be a friend of Islamabad and not India, then our diplomacy would have failed. If, however, Erdogan becomes a friend of India, then this is a diplomatic masterstroke. Erdogan has an election to face in Turkey in May. He might not even be president come June. So let's wait and see. I want to put on my hat as a political analyst. We are seeing a full-blown image makeover of Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi is sending a message to the Islamic world. He is saying to the Islamic world, I, Narendra Modi, am a friend of Islam. And yesterday in Bombay, at an event of the Dawoodi Bohra community, Prime Minister Modi said, I come here not as the Prime Minister. I come here as a member of the Dawoodi Bohra community. Mr. Modi wants to be a leader for all Indians, not just Hindus. The Hindu Hriday Samrat wants to win the hearts of Muslims. And I say that is a welcome move. Charu, do you agree with me?
Abhishek Shravan,
Charu, please agree with me.
No,
disagree with me on this.
hold on.
We'll never agree.
No, Charu, hold on. Charu, hold on. I took your question. We took your question to Abhishek Sudhir, but Abhishek has also given, in fact, very interestingly, Abhishek has taken this debate forward. What he's suggesting is that this is an exercise in image building for Narendra Modi. Now, please tell me, I would want briefly Mr. Ashok Sajjanhar also. Dinesh Varshney, keep your answer brief. What is the problem if in the process of Narendra Modi's image building, you earn a friend in Erdogan who's otherwise a foe, or not a foe, but not really well disposed towards us? What's wrong with that? If Narendra Modi goes to a program of Dawoodi Bohras in Mumbai, like it happened yesterday, and he tries to project, or he projects a picture that he is not anti-Muslim, what's wrong with that? If the Muslim world sees this as India's Prime Minister taking care of his citizens, irrespective of their religion, what's wrong with that? Dinesh Varshney.
Niranjan, nothing wrong. It's good if he realizes this thing. But unfortunately, he is realizing this thing only for the 2024 in target. This is a problem. Now, otherwise, you tell me, what is the Citizenship Act? What is the abrogation of Article 370?
What's wrong? Dinesh Varshney, sorry to interrupt, but he is a politician. He has to win election. Dinesh Varshney, you don't have to contest a corporation, municipal corporation election. You are fine debating on a Saturday evening. But Narendra Modi obviously has to win an election. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with political messaging as a byproduct of all the good work that's happening?
Look, Niranjan, image building cannot happen on the basis of one particular supporting one particular reason. Image building cannot be like this. India image building has to be that India will remain India. Modi is not India, India is not Modi. The people should understand this thing. Charu Pragya should understand this thing. Modi ji should understand this thing. BJP and RSS should understanding. India is a country of unity and diversity. They must follow.
Okay.
They stop Mohan Bhagwat to say that we are Hindus all. He should control RSS. Condemn RSS.
Okay. I think so. If I still want to find some sort of a merit, Ashok Sajjanhar in Professor Dinesh Varshney's argument. Charu, I'll come to you after Ashok Sajjanhar. a career diplomat always puts it in perspective. A lot of diplomats have also indicated in the past, especially when there was a close focus, that Prime Minister Modi has no experience, how exactly he would do it. Ashok Sajjanal, this was especially after he came in as the Prime Minister from being just a Chief Minister of a state. So a lot of questions were being raised that he does not understand the functioning of Delhi, or how does Delhi really look at things. Many career diplomats also said that what Prime Minister Modi is doing is basically an extension of the foreign policy of its predecessors. And once again, the question that many are raising, even till today, the opposition parties say that, is the foreign policy of our country too heavily dependent on what the Prime Minister really thinks, or it's about, that image building of the Prime Minister as the statesman? That's what the opposition parties constantly have. Do you see a problem in this, or you would say that perhaps this entire approach has actually helped us to make our position very formidable?
Let me make a couple of points. Right from the beginning, it is the Prime Minister of the country that has driven the country's foreign policy. From 47 to 64, it was Mr. Nehru who was the foreign minister also. He was the one who was determining the foreign policy. Also Indira Gandhi, also Narasimha Rao. So it was the direction was given, and the Foreign Office and the External Affairs Minister, they would carry out the instructions that were given to them. What has been mentioned about that, reaching out to Turkey is reaching out to the Muslim world. Let's face it, over the last 8-9 years, all the Islamic countries in the Middle East have given their highest awards to Mr. Modi. He doesn't need to go to Erdogan. And when we are reaching out there, I think we need to differentiate between the leaders and the people. We are sending out this aid, this help to the people of the country. And, like we have done even as far as Afghanistan is concerned. There's the Taliban Sarkar there. Taliban, we don't have any diplomatic relations. Still, we have sent out 50,000 tons. Leave aside what we did during the Ashraf Ghani period. But during this current period, 50,000 tons of wheat that we have sent out. We have sent out so much of medicines, 500,000 of vaccines of COVID-19. So, here we are reaching out to the people of the country. And again, when we are going out to the Islamic world, I think the Islamic world also recognize, I would suggest that some members of some panelists read also the report that has come out from the United Kingdom just a few days ago, saying as to how Pakistan has been inciting, the Muslims around the world against India. And so, it's not that Mr. Modi has to go about. He has the last point maybe I could make here is, as far as the Indian economy is concerned, it's not only India that it is saying. You look at the managing director of the IMF, International Monetary Fund. She said that when there is darkness and gloom everywhere, it is India which is the ray of hope. Similar sentiments have been expressed by the World Bank, by the UNDP, all the UN agencies. So I think India has really built this capacity, built this, and the foreign policy is much bolder. Foreign policy
I just want to
is much more
just a quick
visionary.
response.
Foreign policy is
response.
much more courageous today. Yes.
As a 30-second response,
Okay,
look,
sir,
I don't disagree with
Abhishek
anything
Sudhir,
the panelist just said.
Abhishek Sudhir, I'll come to you. Abhishek Sudhir,
if I'm
since you
20 seconds.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, see, my point is simply this. Mr. Modi has always had good relations with Islamic countries. In fact, Mr. Erdogan and Turkey themselves have had strained relations with other Gulf countries, right? And Turkey itself has been somewhat isolated in the Islamic world. Remember that these Islamic countries are competing with each other for supremacy within the Islamic world. So Mr. Modi that way has had good relations with Islamic leaders abroad. What Mr. Modi is doing domestically now is he's trying to win the hearts of Indian Muslims. Now, this is a very interesting new development because it also echoes the outreach by the RSS. But how this will go down with the base and the voters of the BJP, how the VHP and the Bajrang Dal will react to this will be interesting to watch. And one last point, will Narendra Modi actually go to 2024 as a secular liberal prime minister? Will he seek election on that plank? That is the interesting thing after yesterday's event with the Dawoodi Bohras in Mumbai.
I know, Abhishek Sudhir, you are trying to provoke Charu Pragya. You are trying to provoke Charu Pragya by saying that would Narendra Modi go into 2024 as a secular liberal prime minister? I will give that to Charu Pragya. But before that, I will let Charu respond to that. But before that, Tausif, one quick intervention or reaction from you on these points that have been made. I am just summing up and asking you a question. You know, one aspect is the capacity building, the money that India has, about which Mr. Sajjanhar mentioned. The other is Narendra Modi's intrinsic creativity. So, for example, all the help that we are giving to our neighborhood, he coins a word called Sagar, which is security and growth for all in the region. Now, it's interesting that because our neighborhood has all these nations around the Arab Sea and the Indian Ocean, he calls it Sagar and, packages that assistance. So it's Narendra Modi's intrinsic creativity coming into play. Also the fact, Tausif, that we are living in a social media world. So whatever assistance goes, if the Indian Army Twitter handle is tweeting, if the ambassador of Turkey in New Delhi is retweeting it, obviously there is a buzz. So it's not that Narendra Modi is taking extra credit. We have as a nation more money. We have more capacity, we have better machinery to deliver this kind of assistance, and because there is social media, there is buzz. What's wrong if this happens? Really, you shouldn't be objecting to it, Tausif.
You see, first point, you talked about Narendra Modi's intrinsic creativity. And yes, we have seen the result of that intrinsic creativity when he talked about making gas, like a gas to make tea from the gutter. We have seen the kind of creativity he can come up with. You see, on the other hand, what I have seen is happening is that you are saying, people on the panel has said that as if India was a pauper, and with the avatar of Narendra Modi, India has become rich. Please tell me, 20 years ago or 3-4 decades ago, what was the foreign debt on India? And what is the foreign debt now? Did we borrow more money then? Or are we in more debt now? Please mention the figure. Also, after the Second World War, it was not only India. Entire world was recovering. Entire world has progressed. Entire world has become a global village. The globalization has happened in the last 2 decades. So please, for the purpose of image building of Narendra Modi, please stop portraying him as if some kind of avatar.
One second.
How many
why don't you say this?
millions, how many?
Tausif,
25,000 millionaires have left India and settled abroad. 225,000, more than 225,000
no need to be so enraged.
have left India and settled abroad. Why is this so?
I thought Charu would get provoked, but Tausif has got provoked.
It almost looked like, you seem to be having, you seem to be on the edge, Tausif. You spoke about whether we are a richer or a poorer country. But what's important to point out here, you are not telling the world, the nation right now.
No, I
look at our foreign exchange reserve, compare it with China, and you compare it with Pakistan starting from 1947. The pictures
why should we compare it with Pakistan? Why should we not compare it with the developed country?
We're running short of time, so I just want that one last comment. Abhishek Sudhir made a very interesting comment, saying that is the Prime Minister perhaps going for the 2024 elections as a secular liberal Prime Minister? I think, Charu, it's a simple question for you. The Prime Minister always makes this, position that Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. So I don't know whether you at all. It's an attempt made by Abhishek to try and provoke you. But we'll give you the final word.
Quickly.
That should be asked to the RSS first by the Charu Pragya,
laughing
not
away
Modi.
at their ओके देखो यार अभी इंटरप्ट करते हैं देखो इनकी सोच इतनी छोटी है कि मेरे बोलने से पहले इनको इंटरप्ट करना पड़ता है the fact of the matter is that बीजेपी का मंत्र thank you let me have my 30 seconds then without interruptions so BJP's mantra from the very beginning has been सबका साथ सबका विकास and because of that we have सबका विश्वास. That is the truth of Modi government. It has been that since the very first day. I stand by my party and I say we are not at all communal, but it is the pseudo-seculars who have a problem with Modi ji's equal stand. Whichever religion has, whichever religion people belong to in this country, he stands by them all.
All right. We have to end there, Shravan. You know, what is important is that India's HADR power, not the hard power, but HADR power is something which is being talked about, which is being noted around the world, not just in our neighborhood. And that's something about which every Indian should be proud of.
Well, in fact, thank you very much, Charu Pragya, Ashok Sajjanar, Jitendra Kumar Roja, Pankaj Sharma, Abhishek Sudhir, Tausif and Professor Dinesh for joining us on the first edition of the Weekend Debate. We promise you to bring many more debates, which is going to be significant and also brings that broad perspective that we are aiming at. Thank you very much for watching the Weekend Debate.